I used to live in darkness, place where there was no hope, and all my life, I felt like an outsider. I was born in Burma, in civil war zone, and my family was forced to move to Thailand. Burma has a lot of ethnicities, and Korean is my ethnicity. We lived in Burma in a peaceful village, and we had freedom. The name of our village is Kupiki, and it was beautiful. Our village was a farming village, and the farmers grew rice, vegetables, and fruit. Some of the most common vegetables and fruits in my village were cucumbers and bananas. However, when I was 5 years old, the Burmese government controlled everything at that time. Their soldiers came into our village and took our animals, chickens, pigs, and cows, and destroyed our houses by burning them down. There were many gunshots, but I do not know if people were killed because I was young and my parents were protecting me from seeing the tragedy. At the time, it was only me and my brother Pachi. Korean people would dig holes deep in the ground next to their houses for emergency. My parents had hide us there while chaos was happening all around. There are about 135 different ethnic groups in Burma. Most of the ethnic groups in Burma had to run from the Burmese soldiers and flee to other countries. I have seen young children and orphans running and crying while crossing the border to Thailand. Even though Burma is the place where I was born and therefore my country, I feel like an outsider because of the civil war and what the Burmese soldiers were doing to my family and the Korean people. I remember when I was walking many miles across the river at the border of Burma and Thailand. I saw children who were sick and who cried. A lot of women who crossed the river were pregnant. In order to travel from the Korean state to Thailand, we had to sneak out by going through the forest, and we had to make our way through other villages without getting caught by the Burmese soldiers. Before getting to the safety, we had to follow the river that leads to Thailand. This large river leads to the small river that we had to cross in order to reach the Thai border. I love the Korean state of Burma, but I feel like there was no hope for me there. Every day I woke up thinking to myself that I was not going to live that much longer. Korean people had to run into the forest and risk their life to survive. When I first arrived in Thai refugee camp, I was hoping that life was going to be easier and better for my family and my people. I'm so thankful for Thailand. Life was a little bit better and easier. The Thai government took care of my family and the Korean people. They give us some hope for education and a safe place to live. However, education costs money, and it was hard for my parents to find a job. The Thai police didn't allow people to go outside the camp to find jobs. If the police officer or soldiers caught Korean people trying to find a job outside the camp, they would send them back to Burma or put them in jail. The reason was because it wasn't our country. We could not be citizens, and we couldn't do what we wanted. We didn't have that much freedom. All we could do was stay in the camp and live our captive lives. Therefore, I had to drop off school because my parents didn't have money to send me to school. There were not a lot of opportunities for us as refugees, so it felt like a prison. It was not only me that felt that like outsider. I knew my parents felt like that too. They had hope for us, and they want us to have better lives and education. So they decided to come to US for the better life. In Thailand, there was a program where if you want to come to the United States, you could apply to get chosen by the United States. In order to come to the United States, we had to go through interview. They check out health and our background. It took us a few months. After the long process, they took us to airport, which was miles away. We were terrified and nervous. We were sick on our first day of our flight because we had never been on an airplane. My family came to the United States in 2011, and I was 30 years old. When we first came here, none of us spoke English or knew anybody in the United States. The hardest things for us to face was the language barrier. I remember the first week of my high school at Crawford High School in San Diego. I would sit and eat by myself. I didn't talk to anybody because I couldn't speak any English. It was really hard for me. I saw so many people with different color of skin, and I never seen that before. No one talked to me the first 3 days except for my teacher. I was sad because I felt as if I didn't belong in this school or even in the United States. I remember my mom was crying and how badly she wanted to go back to Burma. It was hard for them to go to any office, school, hospital, social security, and fill out papers because they didn't speak or read English. We couldn't communicate with others or make friends. Back in Thailand, I watched a movie called The Protector with Tony Jaa, Thai actor. He does backflips, all kinds of stuff. I don't remember how I learned the word parkour. I think someone told me. I was doing parkour before I even knew the word. When I watched the film, I feel like I want to attempt the stunts that Tony Jaa does. In the United States, I started watching a video on YouTube about parkour. During this time, I played soccer with a Korean friend named Sa, and we started talking about parkour. We would go to Colina Park and try to do flips off benches. Sometimes we would record ourselves and watch our improvement each time we review the videos. Sa's really good. I feel like he's the star. My little brother Pachi comes and watches me sometimes, although I don't really want him to do it. He wants to learn it, but I don't let him. My parents don't really know I do parkour. It's something that not interests them. I also feel like it's something that they should not worry about, even though I feel like it's part of me. We don't really have a good place to do parkour. We would like more rooftops, more buildings to do new tricks. I love it. I just love it. I feel like it makes me stronger and I can protect myself. Sometimes we get hurt. When we're doing flips off chairs or tables, we have that fear of getting hurt. But we find a way to do it step by step. We find the tough thing first. If we fail, we know we need more practice. I feel like the more I do parkour, the more I can jump higher. Oh. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you. It was hard for us trying to fit in American culture since our culture and the American culture are totally different. We used to live in the jungle where there were a lot of trees in the forest, but now we live in the city where there are few trees, no river, and few wild animals. Also, we didn't have a big buildings or a lot of cars. I feel like we have more freedom in the United States because we can do whatever we want. We can go anywhere in America. I began to pick up some English and I helped my parents a little. Still, it was hard for my family. Now my parents have a job, they can speak a little bit of English. Sometimes though, I still feel like an outsider with people around me in the community that I live in, because I continuously learning to balance the Korean and American culture in my new life. The way that I love parkour has mirrored my life journey, and that determination in my experience has made me a stronger person. In parkour, if I'm not passionately determined to overcome my fears, then I will be in the same place that I was at when I first started. In my experience, when I lived in Thailand, I didn't have freedom or a way to receive education. If my family hadn't been determined to overcome these problems, then we would still live in Thailand without liberty. However, because of our determination for finding a better way of life, we're able to come to the United States, where freedom is abundant.
That was Htoo.